think we have to celebrate love in all of its forms. It's a beautiful thing. I'm really happy for Taylor Swift. Yay!
Welcome, friends, to the Reiki Women Podcast, an exploration into the profound depths of the system of Reiki from a Japanese spiritual perspective and how that relates to our modern lives.
We are keeping it real to Reiki's origins, challenging the New Age stereotype that things like crystals, chakras, and angels are authentic aspects of the system. I'm Bronwen Logan, and when I'm not writing best-selling books about the Japanese system of Reiki, 75,000 readers and counting, I'm here debunking outmoded Reiki myths and coaching individuals and groups through my website, Reiki with Bronwen.
And I'm Michaela Daystar, lead teacher and weaver of Heartscapes Reiki, connecting the dots between Reiki and environmental and social justice, because our individual healing cannot be extracted from healing relationship with the collective and with the land.
And I'm Carrie Varela from the Reiki Healing Society, here to help you transform your Reiki practice into a thriving, prosperous business. Because while passion fuels your purpose, it's time to make it sustainable, authentic, and beautifully you. We're three women diving into the heart of Japanese Reiki. We're building a community that centers women's voices and inspires well-being. We're not just for women, we're for everybody. Come join the conversation.
Welcome, everyone, and it's Carrie and myself, Bronwen, with you guys today. So, we woke up to some big news this morning, and it was that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelsey got engaged. So, the question there is, will their love last? And we ask that because life is a up and down and all around, and you just never know what's going to happen. I remember when my kid was maybe 8 or something like that, and Taylor Swift put out her song, which was the Romeo and Juliet song, and oh, my kid loved it so much. I really enjoyed that too. She's been just such an amazing woman and has achieved so many phenomenal things in her life. It's like anything that she wants to achieve, she just does it. And I think she's an amazing role model. So I would love to think that her love will last, whatever that might mean. We'll discuss that today, as far as working through with the system of Reiki, how we see love, relationships, our experiences in life. To begin with, I thought I'd just give a little poem here, which does just sort of reflect this. I was thinking about this subject, came across this poem from 100 Poems from the Japanese. And there was this poem by Lady Horikawa, who would have been a lady of the court many, many years ago. And she wrote this poem, and it's, "Will he always love me? I cannot read his heart. This morning my thoughts are as disordered as my black hair." So, will he always love her? What do you think, Carrie?
I believe in the philosophy, love is real, not fade away. It's a Grateful Dead lyric, and I think we have to celebrate love in all of its forms. It's a beautiful thing. I'm really happy for Taylor Swift. Yay! I have been inundated. You're in Australia, so you just woke up, but I've been inundated with this news all day. So little clips here and there. But I actually saw a clip of her with Ellen DeGeneres when she was 18. And Taylor Swift was on Ellen DeGeneres, and she was like, "I know that I will find a man that deserves me, or that I will love, or that will love me for who I am." And she is just the biggest rock star, superstar, feminine icon. Maybe not so much of my generation, but my stepdaughter's generation. So many children, so many generations, millennial generations are just, how much of your life is shaped by Taylor Swift, her songs, her lyrics, her concerts, her message. And so I think it's just really a beautiful moment for her. And before we started this conversation today, I think there's maybe a healthy debate whether or not their relationship will last, because she's a celebrity, he's an NFL football player, and plenty of relationships come and go, whether you're famous or not. But I like to believe that their love will last. And even if they aren't together, that there'll be that legacy, hopefully, of a love that really is the glue that holds relationship together. Yeah, all relationships don't necessarily last, but I think if we can preserve that love that brought us together in relationships, whether or not they've lasted or not, it's a beautiful thing, right? It's not easy to do. I'm on the other side of things, leaving a relationship, and it's a really torrid mess to have love and lose love. And it's a very painful thing, really painful thing. But it's kind of cool that so she's this rock superstar, right? Singing these concerts at NFL stadiums all over the world. And but then he's Travis Kelsey, he's this NFL football player, quarterback dude, and also having, thrones of fans cheering him on in football stadiums. So in some ways, they're kind of like twin souls. I love that quote. I mean, it's so true, right? Like, how many of us have been in that throw of romantic love and relationship, yet there's this other aspect of it, right? Where it's like we want to cling to it. We want it to last. We want to make sure it's something that we can hold or contain or control. And that is not the nature of love as I've experienced it. So I don't know
Yeah.
about you.
It just reminds me a little bit of the last podcast that I did with Michaela. And then the class that I just did, it's funny how everything just sort of comes together, doesn't it? But the last podcast was about beginner's mind. So going back into that space of newness to things. And I think in relationships, that's often really hard. Where all the baggage starts bubbling up in relationships, and then it's very hard to feel that, to remember that sense of newness and that you had with someone when you're first with them. And everything else seems to get in the way. How do we work with that? That's a really difficult thing. And sometimes we can't work with that. And sometimes we move on because we can't live with that. But does it mean, as you sort of pointed out in the beginning, does that mean that love is no longer there? I don't think so. And of course, it depends on the situation. But I think there's different levels of love. And in my recent online coaching class, I took the idea of the beginner's mind and worked with compassion and this idea that, we all have this spark inside us of beginner's mind, of that newness and that freshness and that joy and that openness. And that is actually us being in the space of the Reiki precepts and just totally being in that space. It's very open and not fearful. So we don't have to hide from anything. And that is somewhere inside of us. And we can meet another person at that level. And it's like these two sparks coming together. There's that image of a matchbox and a match, and the match being lit and coming close to another match and lighting that match, and just that whole being in this, at this level of connection with someone else. And that is a real compassionate, open space. And I think that exists within us because we've felt that in a relationship with someone, if we've felt that, yeah. And if we've been free enough to feel open and feel that connection with someone, though all the baggage and all those things might happen to us in our life and change happens and we move on, that still occurred. And there is some sense in our life experience of that. And you can't actually destroy that, I don't think. What do you think, Carrie?
Well, I think that you said that there's many layers of love or little levels of it. And so love at an initial stage of a relationship might be just kind of passion and that level of connection. But for a relationship to last for a long period of time, there needs to be more than that. There needs to be compatibility. There needs to be reciprocity, respect for each other, willingness to walk the same path with each other and go on the same journey. And that is challenging, right? I've done a lot of couples counseling, and the inherent nature of a relationship is this kind of yo-yo seesaw, right? Back and forth, up and down. So it's hard to meet in the middle. and like really find that middle ground. Relationships are one of the core aspects of our life, and we learn so much about life and through our relationships. And I think this whole notion of whether or not a relationship will last, I mean, certainly that's some source of suffering. I mean, it's been suffering for me in my life when I've been in relationship. I mean, I don't know how many hours I've spent like, is this relationship going to last? Like, can we be compatible? Can we do this? But always striving towards love and connection when possible. But in terms of whether or not a relationship's going to last, I mean, I feel like that is very anti-Reiki in some sense, right? Because we're trying to project into the future, and it is not the most spiritual mindset or orientation when you're wanting to know whether you're in a relationship for 3 months, 6 months, 6 years, 12 years. Like, if this relationship's going to last, well, you're not in the present moment, right? And so I think in relationship, we have to work on moving beyond the story, beyond the past, and meet our partner where we're at in the present moment. Work through the circumstance that's in front of you in order to find that path forward together. And I think that becomes challenging, right? The longer you're in a relationship with somebody, because we can form these really bad habits. And if Reiki is about personal growth and evolution and finding your purpose, that's something that shifts over the years. It's not a static thing. It's not just, oh, my purpose is this and that's what it is. And it's shifting sands. It's changing. And so in relationship, we need to have enough flexibility that we can allow our partner to change. We can give ourselves enough freedom to change ourselves. I think some relationships really do well with that and some don't. So one of my teachers talked about relationships as a form of spiritual alchemy, that when two people come together, it's like your energies are mixing, and your mindsets, your belief systems, your power, your purpose, all of those things kind of mix together, and it creates this little chemical interaction, right? And there's this alchemy of whether or not that connection will bring about a good reaction, negative reaction. So some of the struggle, I think, in particularly an earlier relationship, is to be willingness to sit inside of that transformation of a relationship and the alchemy that's happening, to have meaningful conversations without shutting down.
Yeah.
Keeping your heart open.
I know that a lot of the female students that I've had over the years, many have said that they're learning the system of Reiki for themselves to shift and change, but that their partners weren't on board with that. And that's when you've got this real schism. And how do you make that work? Because you're wanting to learn more about yourself and be more your authentic self rather than a manufactured being for someone else. But if the partner finds it difficult to move with that, then where do we go? What happens? And I don't know. What do you think?
Well, let's refer back to our episode with Elise Brenner, where we talked about the patriarchy, and that so much of relationship is about control, and it's very subconscious. So I think even for a very enlightened person who doesn't want to succumb to power dynamics in relationships, I mean, I think we all have power dynamics in relationships. It's just a part of the process, right?
Mm.
In that episode of Radiance, we talked about the patriarchy as being this form of colonization of women's minds, bodies, hearts, that like we have been so socially conditioned to think that relationships are like the end game. They're the only purpose we have in life. And I think to grow beyond that, it can be very threatening in relationship, even for somebody who's wanting to hold that space for somebody's growth and evolution. I think a lot of people, and I'm just going to say people because I don't think it's exactly a gender dynamic, right? And there's plenty of really healthy, beautiful men out there who know how to love a woman and know how to give her space and allow her to grow. There's plenty of desire to kind of contain somebody as a possession, as something that you own, rather than your partner in life. My Vedic astrology studies is just really fascinating, this stuff. But, in Vedic astrology, there's four main buckets of things that this whole system of self-knowledge and self-realization really contains. And it marks the four pathways in life, right? The four pathways are dharma, or your life purpose, wealth, relationships, and liberation. And so those four things are really just like these four main buckets, and we're all on like this archetypal pattern of trying to understand ourselves through these four lenses. From my Vedic astrology teacher, the perspective is that typically there's one lane that we have the most life lessons in, and it can be very clear from your chart where your life lessons are. So my life lessons are all related to relationship, just so happens to be, or not all, but that's a part of it. But that's where I'm learning the most. I'm growing in that aspect of myself. Other people might have different trajectories, right? They're doing different things. And well, this is kind of veering off the Reiki understanding, but it was so fascinating for the Vedic astrology. So, they know how to match charts, right? So look at one person's chart and another person's chart and determine compatibility. But what's so interesting about that is it's actually not so much to do with the compatibility of whoever you're in partnership with. It's actually so much to do about how you relate to relationships intrinsically as an individual. So if you have challenging planets in your relationship houses, like inherently you will have challenges in your relationships, right? Maybe we can believe that or not believe that, but there's plenty of examples of how that could be illustrated through Vedic astrology. So what I feel so empowered by that understanding is that relationships, just as much as they have so much to do with the other person, they actually have so much to do with yourself as well. That you can have more power in relationship than you think you can. That it is about how you relate to that other person, but how you also relate to yourself and your own dynamic, your own baggage as it relates to relationships. And we can be more mindful of that. I think it also helps us have healthier relationships.
Yeah. When we talk about relationships, we're not just talking about love relationships. We're talking about our connection with others in our world and how we succeed or don't succeed with that. Warren Buffett had these 3 words that he believed with that had to be present in his relationship with others. Yeah. And they were enthusiasm, intelligence, and integrity. And that integrity was the most important one. And I really liked that because that enthusiasm, I mean, if we're talking about love relationships, yes, things can go up, down, and sideways. But if we can retain that enthusiasm for the other person, their ideas, their values, really being interested in someone. And I think that's just such an integral part of being together, and that we learn from each other and that we want to know about the other person and we leave them open to be themselves. Intelligence, being able to have a discussion, pretty good. And integrity, he said, was the most important one. And I really love that. I've always been someone who's felt integrity a lot, the value of it. And it's very hard to be with others if you feel that there is no integrity in the relationship, in others' connections with the world. You need to be able to come to that relationship with integrity, which you can't do if it's not really matched. I was thinking before when I was just saying enthusiasm, that's like that beginner's mind. It's like nothing else is in the way, and you just allow yourself to be free, to be open to be with that person and to be excited by the things that are happening in the world.
It's true. I mean, integrity in relationship is huge, right? I mean, because we need to be able to be open and honest with one another in order to build trust and safety. So if, your significant other, your partner isn't in integrity or lies or does things like behind your back, and I mean, all of those things just will erode any healthy relationship. Those are kinds of qualities that just are devastating for a relationship. And even if somebody is a good, kind-hearted, wholehearted person, but might have that kind of baggage, right? Where they're engaging in those kinds of behaviors, which are just undermining that connection to the relationship. But unfortunately, I feel like sometimes as women, we like look the other way with sometimes that. And so that can be a really detriment in a relationship. I love this song by Elton John. Speaking of pop stars, Elton John, that song is sorry seems like the hardest word. And that's, I think, another really important quality of relationship. I've heard that the person who apologizes first is the bravest relationship. So integrity is not only doing the right thing, but being able to be accountable, right? When you mess
Yeah.
up or inadvertently hurt somebody, or you don't even realize, oh, whoops, shoot. I mean, I stepped on you. I didn't know that. And because of this yo-yo dynamic in relationship, that can happen all the time. But to me, that's also the essence of healing, right? How willing are we to admit when we're wrong? If there's safety to do that, right? And to be able to put the weapons down, right? And really genuinely have that heart to heart connection, because inside of relationships, so many people think that relationships don't have challenge. Every relationship has challenges. There's no easy relationship out there. Well, especially in a personal romantic relationship. But as you said, relationships are so much bigger than just that personal romantic relationship, although that one is very important too.
And I find if we work through things, like you just said, if we work through things, it actually adds a lot more depth and foundation and grounding to a relationship.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. So being able to work through that, and I think that is really meaningful and can provide a lot of growth.
Yeah, it helps us to understand another person better. So, as far as Taylor Swift goes, how is it that she manages to achieve these things that she wants to achieve? It's the essence of all of us that we want things, yeah, in life, but how do we actually make it happen? And I think she's been really successful with that.
Well, I think some part of being that successful is that you're a very free person. Taylor Swift could go on. She probably has her own airline. She can fly anywhere she wants to. I was listening to an interview of her with Travis Kelsey. She was talking about her newest album that she's releasing, and she was like on tour doing this world tour in Europe. And then she would just go, like, after a show, maybe she'd have 2 days between shows, she'd fly to Sweden to go do recording, and that she was just in this creative fire hose with this album, and she was so obsessed with it. And Travis Kelsey in the wings, like cheering her on and wanting her to do that, and so holding space, so not being this dramatic, possessive, jealous, negative guy, but really supporting her to shine her bright light. That's a beautiful thing, right? All relationships, we should have that. I think some of it is that when you're just that wealthy and successful, it's like, don't mess around with other people putting obstacles in front of you. But I don't know.
There's plenty of wealthy people who have shit lives, I have to say, right?
No matter how much they have, it's never enough.
It always reminds me when I hear, it's terrible, but sad stories of things that happen to people who are very, very, very wealthy. And I think it's just a reminder that money is not going to be the answer to it all. I think as far as Taylor Swift is concerned, she's just incredibly clear. So she's just so focused. And when we talk about meditation, the first port of call for doing anything with meditation is to find focus, to be able to find focus. And for some reason, she's incredibly good at finding that focus and can just laser in on whatever it is that she is looking for and giving it time. I mean, this whole relationship thing with Travis Kelsey, and she's not 20 anymore. So she's allowed herself to experience things, experience life, to have relationships that didn't work, and to acknowledge that's not working for me. I'm going to move on to something else. and keep going. And that's an ability to be flexible. You mentioned that before, Carrie, to move with change, to be here right now and to understand, okay, is this right or not right? And finding her answers in that.
Oh, that's why she is such an incredible being, right? Because she has this massive fame, and yet it hasn't seemed to corrupt her. She's still so pure and sweet and such an amazing songwriter, right? An artist. And yet she has that strong mind. And,
Yeah.
that's one facet of Reiki, right? Is coming back to our original nature, coming back to our true heart and mind. And so she has that gift, absolutely. And so I'm just excited for her. I don't know. There's also this show on Netflix, K-pop Demon Hunter. My kids are obsessed with this. It's just got the most views on Netflix than any other show ever on Netflix. But it's the story of these three, pop stars, and they're really demon hunters, and it's this whole thing. But it's totally a bend to Taylor Swift. It absolutely is. These girls are in the middle of an arena singing, and my daughter, she's 6, and she is just dancing. She loves that so much. It's such an inspiration for her, and so as it should be for all of our inner childs. And I hope that, her and Travis Kelsey have a lifetime of happiness, and maybe she's just ready to have babies and do that whole, part of her life. And I hope that they find so much joy together. And regardless if their relationship lasts, may that spark of love that they have, bring that spark of love out into the world.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Carrie. Good luck, Taylor. You don't need good luck. She's got it all going. I think there's some lessons in there for us about how to be really focused to get what is good for us in our lives and what we need, and be able to move toward that in a flexible, joyful way, and to love the relationships in our life as we move through, and know that some relationships don't last. I do think at the core, we have that sense of interconnection, and we all have that ability to remember that. And you may not want to be with someone anymore. Taylor might throw out Travis Kelsey. Who knows what happens? But there's always that core of remembrance of the joy and the beauty that they've had. And that just adds to our lives and makes our lives so precious. And a part of our reason for being here is to experience that at different times in our life. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. Make sure you like and subscribe, as everybody says, and we'll see you next week. Bye.